Welcome to the second part of making the door frames above the bread oven, and today I'll be showing you how I made this one. Now these are made out of solid curved pieces of timber which I had planked up a few years ago, and I was really lucky. I went down expecting a lot of hard work getting them out from the bottom of the stack of timber, but luckily some of the guys from the local college turned up and gave me a hand. Now hang on to the end of the video and I'll share some of the exciting news for what's happening next with you. So I've put my two timbers pretty much as close as where they will be. I've figured out in a drawing where my springing points for the two centred arch will be, and then it's a case of shaping them with the adze. So what I'm doing now is, these are the durns. Now a durn is a piece of timber one side of a door which goes up and it curves round. It's a very old-fashioned word. Now these pieces of timber here, they're a bit twisted. Now I'm going to mark the tenons on here, but in order to do that, working with timber that's not straight, I need to find somewhere between the two. So I'm going to put my level on where, I'm going to have a joint, and I've actually just put a wedge in here, so I've got that level, and then I'm going to go up to the top where I've got my next joint, and it's sitting a bit like this. So I'm going to find that in the middle, and I do that by bringing down my wedges and then just comparing back to the other side. And what I'm looking for is an equal amount of out of level, if that makes sense. So one's like that, one's equally the other way. And so once I've found that, which I think is about there, so I'm looking at how much that bubble goes over the line in this, or touches the line in this case. I'm going to find a place on here that's level, which should be, in theory, somewhere between the two, but it depends on the timber. And here it's started to twist already here. So here's level, and on here I'm going to mark what's called a level reference, so I can find this place for when I put the bottom pieces together and I go up to scribe the top. So all I do for here is I strike either side of the level. And this is a very traditional mark. You'll see it in a lot of historical buildings in one form or another. So that's my level reference. And now I'll go on and I'm going to put a level across here to mark my tenons. I've now laid the header, the top piece, onto the durns, and I'm using a plumb bob, which is a piece of metal, in this case brass, on a piece of string, and I put that down close to the timbers, and this allows me to sight through, and I can take into account any deflection within those timbers. It's a really common technique for timber framing, traditional framing and carpentry. And I'll probably go over it in more detail at another point so you can really understand it. Now I'm marking the curve on the header, and this probably makes it easier to understand what I was doing earlier on when I had the two durns that were uncut. Now it's time to put the last curve in the door, and I experimented a few times with finding different points, but this, at the apex of the curve of the durns, I found this to be the most pleasing, and this curve was not only aesthetically pleasing, but it's quite a practical thing. It makes it really nice to step through the door. So the door frames are in, but the walls are going to have to wait just for a little bit longer, because next week I'm off to Wales for a couple of months where I'm going to be taking a course in heritage lime plastering, as well as going around with some really good practitioners, getting some experience. I'm going to be going from an apprentice, getting some of those traditional skills. Now, of course, I've got a couple of reasons for this. Of course, the first one is so I can bring those skills back, share them with you, as I put them to good use on my house and this property here. The other reason is so that I can demonstrate to a lot of people who have been getting in touch with me and asking how they get into heritage crafts. Hopefully I can demonstrate what it's like starting from zero, getting into a craft and starting to work and bring up those skills, and hopefully open people's eyes to what exciting projects you can get involved in and all of the steps along the way. So, until next time, have fun.